Listen up, my name is Ryan SERHANT. I'm the founder and CEO of SERHANT, and if you are looking to relocate to Dallas, you need to look no further than to this man right here. This is Mr. DFW, as he is known. You gotta go check out his YouTube channel. Maybe you already know it, but if you don't, he is the mayor. He is the governor, and he's gonna help you with all of the major decisions you are going to need to make, not just on house, but also on location, on neighborhood, and on everything in between. And I'm so excited to have you here with me on day one for SERHANT Dallas.
You see, that's Ryan SERHANT. In his own words, no edits, no fluff, no spin. You see, Ryan called me a few months ago to be a part of him moving his business down to Dallas. And quite frankly, he found me the same way that you guys did, right here on YouTube. Look, his literal first words to me were Mr. DFW, and over the past month, I've had several in-depth conversations about why he would make such a colossal move and bet so big on the DFW Metroplex. You see, a mogul like Ryan doesn't do anything without data-driven indicators, right? And what he shared with me on what Dallas will be over the next decade explains why a New York City magnet is betting the whole house on Dallas, Texas right now. And in today's video, guys, I'm gonna break down exactly what he said, and one of these reasons will change the way you see Texas and the United States moving forward.
Okay, on that fresh content, go take cardigan, Virgin Mary flowers, say I pull up fresh as hell. Everyone else got M, talking about since then, get out my ear. Money coming in, I put my nanny in Chanel.
All right, so before you believe another Dallas is booming headline, guys, there's some stuff that you really need to know. And look, I'm not talking about the basic no state income tax, the low cost of living stuff that everybody else is talking about, right? I'm talking about the real reason Wall Street is quietly moving thousands of jobs to Texas and what that means for you if you're thinking about making this move as well. Look, Ryan told me about a hush-hush internal program at one of the biggest banks in the world that just moved to downtown Dallas, guys. And they're literally telling their people internally, look, you either move to Dallas or lose your job. Yeah, that's really, really real. And I'm gonna dive into that a little bit later on in the video. But first, let's talk about why Ryan decided to move into Dallas. I mean, just this month, guys, he launched SERHANT in 4 major Texas markets, guys, all at one time. We're talking about Dallas, we're talking about Houston, Austin, San Antonio. And I was one of the founding agents that came on board. And look, for context, in the interviews that we had about this expansion, guys, Ryan didn't call Texas a hot market. He didn't say, oh, everybody's moving there, so we should too. He called it structurally important to the business. We're talking about a central location, real migration and relocation happening from each coastline, guys, and an economy that spans the likes of energy, aerospace, tech, manufacturing, all growing at the same damn time. Listen, guys, that's not a vibe, that's a thesis statement. And it's the same thesis I've been walking you guys through on this channel for the better part of 3 years. So let's start with that central location piece, because that's the first thing that Ryan pointed to, right? And that's gonna be the same reason that companies keep planting their flags here, guys. DFW sits in the middle of the entire country, and you've got one of the busiest airports on the planet, 20 minutes from downtown Dallas, direct flights basically to anywhere that you want to go, whether that be for business, whether that be for pleasure, or the occasional red eye overseas, guys. And Dallas's infrastructure on I-35, on US 75, on I-30, I-20, and the tollways is making all our outer suburbs just as reachable as ever before. I want you to think of places like Aubrey, like Little Elm, like Mansfield, like Forney, like Rockwall, just to name a few of them. Listen, 5 years ago, those were towns you drove through just to get somewhere else, right? Now they're getting toll lane expansions, they're widening the feeder roads, specifically because so many people are moving that direction now. And that access is turning what used to be a 45-minute afterthought into a genuinely livable commute. And look, I get it, guys. Why should you listen to some random guy on YouTube who Ryan SERHANT has dubbed Mr. DFW? Look, guys, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Mark Branson, Mr. DFW, and I'm your realtor here out in Dallas. And my team and I, we help people buy, sell, and relocate right here to the Dallas Metroplex. Look, nobody's out here boots on the ground giving you those insights, the intel, and give you the information you need to make the best decisions for you and your family. So if you're thinking about making that move, guys, feel free to reach out, right? We're never too busy. All of our contact info is down in the description below and pinned to the top of the chat. Dove into all the migration from the coast, right? And look, that's not just a broker's talking point, guys. That's the actual data. Texas is the second most moved to state in the entire country right now. Number 2 on the list. And then within Texas, DFW is pulling in the biggest share than all the other major cities, right? Look, I just had a couple move here from Jersey last year, and they just told me straight up, we're tired of the gray skies, we're tired of the rent, we're tired of scraping snow off our windshield every single morning. Look, 2 months later, they're sipping wine on their back patio up in Frisco, Texas, texting me pictures of the sunset like I don't see the same sunset sunset every day. Then there's gonna be the diverse economic piece, the energy, the aerospace, the tech, manufacturing, logistics, all growing at once, right? And that's the same diversity that's kept the job market moving even when all the other metros around the US, they stall out completely. Look, we've got companies like Goldman Sachs who are building their crazy campus right in the middle of downtown, guys. Listen, this thing is a glass monstrosity that is going to be the new home for so many finance guys. Look, it's literally gonna make your pockets sing every time you walk past it. Look, you got JP Morgan Chase, Charles Schwab, Caterpillar, Lockheed Martin, American Airlines. Look, they're not here for one industry, guys. Look, this is really how it works. If the tech sector slows down, the healthcare is still hiring. If healthcare slows down, then logistics is still hiring. Look, that kind of diversification is rare, guys, and it's exactly why this job market has kept its footing through the cycles that hit a lot of the other cities that hit them so hard. The tech salaries alone here jumped by double digits over the past couple of years, and healthcare hiring hasn't slowed down either. All right, but now let's talk about the real estate piece, because Ryan specifically said Texas, it has it all, right? You're gonna get the cities, the suburbs, the rural, the coastline, and that's why you've got master plan communities out in Prosper and Frisco competing directly against resale inventory that's closer to the urban core. These are gonna be different buyers, different price points, but that same growing demand, which would be good for you over the next 5 to 10 years after you make the move, and then later on you give us a call to sell your first Texas home, and then we find you that next one. If you want the walkability and the rooftop bars, that downtown energy, you're looking at Uptown or Bishop Arts area of Dallas, right? But if you want the quiet, the space, and letting your kids ride bikes down the street without you having to worry about their well-being, you're looking at Rockwall, you're looking at Frisco, Plano, and Mansfield. Same metroplex, completely different lifestyle. And that range is a huge part of why this city keeps absorbing people from every kind of background, every single budget, and every stage of life, guys. Look, whether you're a first-time buyer, a growing family, or somebody just relocating with a corporate package, guys, this could be the perfect place for you. So I'm super excited to announce today we are launching our new Dallas Relocation Guide app. If you're thinking about relocating to the DFW, you can grab this free resource, guys. It's your complete starting point, right? A full overview of Dallas-Fort Worth. We're talking about breakdowns of the regions, the geography, the hidden secrets, and everything you need to start narrowing down where to move to fit your lifestyle. Look, we've been working tirelessly to bring you more value, and all you have to do is scan the QR code or just click the link below to get started.
I got the swag, part of them. Shorty have me drip, proud of them. Put it on the jet, out of here. 2024, our year. Call paramedics, I'm killing them. Stepping on their necks, I'm milling him. Louis leather vest.
And look, another point that Ryan made was about the schools, right? You see, schools drive buying behavior, right? Which drives the real estate demand, and I'm seeing it boots on the ground every single day. Our clients are typically looking for the top-notch schools, the great athletic programs to secure the futures of their most precious assets, their children. If you're looking to raise your family here, Frisco ISD, Allen ISD, Lovejoy ISD, and a multitude of others, they get brought up again and again and again for their academic performance and their extracurriculars, because school ratings, they can shift and boundaries can move mid-year without much warning, guys. But what I can tell you is that families relocating for these corporate jobs are overwhelmingly moving toward these districts specifically, which is a part of why demand in those specific suburbs, it keeps climbing faster and faster than the broader market. Ryan told me that lifestyle is why people are choosing Dallas, and this fits right into that theme. And when we're talking about what's happening in places like Plano and Legacy West as well, guys, because this is where the corporate migration, it turns into something you can actually see with your own 2 eyes. What used to be a nice, quiet suburb has turned into a full-on live, work, and play ecosystem. Look, we're talking about luxury apartments, rooftop lounges, corporate headquarters, and a genuinely good sushi all sitting on the same block. And it's not stopping there either, right? Salina, Prosper, and Aubrey are all zoning out new mixed-use developments right now, because basically they're betting that their Plano and Legacy West model repeats itself a little bit further out, just with a little bit more breathing room and maybe a goat next door if that's more your speed. And then there's also gonna be the cultural piece that he talked about as well, guys. And this is something I think gets underrated in every one of these why is everybody moving here type of videos, guys. Look, Dallas is genuinely diverse across the board. We're talking about culturally, socially, professionally, and that diversity, it shows up in the food scene more than almost anywhere else. Look, you can grab tacos at a gas station that are just incredible, right? And then you can hit a 5-star steakhouse on the same block, same afternoon, guys. That type of range is part of what makes this city livable for so many different kinds of pieces all at one time, right? So whether you're a young professional or retiree or just a family with 3 kids and 3 different sports. And look, I really want want to zoom in on something that's happening right now that Ryan said could actually caught his attention, right? And that's Universal Studios opening its doors up in Frisco, right? Look, this isn't the Orlando-sized park. It's going to be a smaller version, more family-focused. It is going to be designed for the younger kids. It's going in right off of the Dallas North Tollway and the Panther Creek Parkway, and it's already pushing demand and pricing up in a whole new corridor, guys. And look, it's going to continue to do that as the years passes by. And look, if you're the type that'll say, you know, we'll just wait a few more years and then we'll buy in Frisco, I've got to be really honest with you. You're going to be paying a very real premium for that decision. And when you pair that with the PGA of America headquarters, that's also in Frisco, guys, and when you pair that with the monstrosity that's going to be the Fields, right, a $5 billion mixed-use expansion nearby, then you're looking at a corridor that's starting to get compared seriously to be the Beverly Hills of North Texas. Guys, you see, Serhant is synonymous with luxury, right? And these developments are bringing that to this area. That means the type of people that are going to live over here are going to increase the property values around it and beyond. But look, here's the real truth. None of this growth is free, and I always tell people this, right? There's a flip side to all of it, and that's going to be the zoning and the housing policy fight happening closer to the urban cores right now. Look, I've noticed right here in downtown Dallas, they're pushing to add more townhomes, more duplexes, more affordable units closer to the city, specifically to fight the rising housing costs, and that's stirring up real debate among longtime residents who aren't really thrilled about that kind of density showing up in their backyard. Look, I understand both sides of that conversation, and it's worth knowing about before you pick a neighborhood, because zoning fights like that can absolutely change what the streets look like 5 years from now. All right, but let's talk about the new construction for a second too, because it ties directly into what our clients are going to be asking about, right? Look, builders out here, they're dropping some serious incentives right now. We just got one of our most recent clients under contract on a beautiful Highland home, guys. This one was an inventory home with the high ceilings, the upgraded finishes, and that larger lot that everybody's looking for. Listen, we secured them with $20K in rate buy downs, thousands in closing costs, and a full appliance package as well, because I have so many contacts with the builder and they know it's deal time when Mark and the team come around, guys. Look, the builders, they are not naive right now. They're competing against all the resale homes that might be a little bit older, but come with lower property taxes and none of the mud or pit fees that a lot of these newer master plan communities carry. And look, while we're on the subject, let's get into the hidden costs, because this is the part that nobody puts in the headlines, right? Look, property taxes in Texas are no joke. Now look, Ryan said New York isn't anything to gawk at, guys, but he was surprised at the effect it's had on the monthly payments and people's budgets down here in the metro. But look, he still sees it as a reprieve from a ton of these other states with the high costs and the even higher political climates. And yeah, I get it, guys. We don't have the state income tax, but they will absolutely make up for it on your mortgage bill, guys. Look, our HOA fees, they swing anywhere from a few $100s a year to over $100 a month, just depending on where you decide to land. And home insurance has gone up across the board thanks to the storm risk and inflation, and not to mention more people on the friggin' road. In which I get it, I gotta raise my hand because I'm guilty for bringing so many of you guys to Dallas. Look, none of this is meant to scare you off. It's meant to make sure you actually go in with your eyes open, because the rookie mistakes that I see over and over again is somebody renting in an area to test it out, falling in love with it, and then realizing they can't actually afford to buy there once they get settled in. You see, on this channel, guys, we give you the real, the raw, and unfiltered truth so you can make the best decision for your family, right? We don't take this lightly, and neither should you. All right, now, so let's zoom back out to the bigger picture, guys, because here's the part I really want you to sit with. Look, Ryan's timing is not random at all, guys. This expansion is happening at the exact same time that Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo are all moving thousands of jobs into the DFW Metroplex. Texas now has more people working in finance than New York does. Not close to it, right? More than it. Look, they recently just pulled all that data from New York's own business community, and they found 519,000 financial sector employees in Texas versus 507,000 across the entire state of New York. I want you to let that sink in for just a second. Goldman Sachs is building an 800,000 square foot campus here, $500 million, and it's set to house 5,000 employees by 2028. And that will make it Goldman's second largest office in the entire country, only behind New York City itself. And then JP Morgan, on the other hand, they already employ more people in Texas than they do in New York City, with the massive campus out in Plano housing over 10,000 of those workers. Wells Fargo, they just opened up a 22-acre campus with 2 brand new office buildings that can house nearly 4,500 employees. Look, the financial press around here has already started calling this thing Y'all Street. And look, that's not me being cute, guys. That's the Wall Street Journal and the Business Insiders. That's real financial media coverage of a real structural shift happening right here in Dallas. But look, guys, what Ryan shared will be next, it really told me how serious all these companies actually are, because I think it's the clearest example of what's really going on behind the scenes, and it's something a lot of people in this industry are talking about quietly, but nobody wants to say on the record. Look, let me let you guys in on a little bit of secret, guys. Goldman Sachs has an internal program reportedly called Project Voyage. Go and look it up. And this kicked off in late 2024. This is going to be a 3-year plan to cut over $1 billion in costs. And one of the main levers they're pulling on is going to be the relocation piece. So that means a lot of the managers, the vice vice presidents, and other high-level employees based in New York were told to move to Dallas, move to Salt Lake City, or find yourself a new job. Listen, that's not a perk that they're offering people, guys. That's the plan, laid out in black and white and reported by Bloomberg and covered by Fortune 500. And here's why it makes sense from their side of the table, right? Look, office space in Manhattan, it runs about $80 a square foot. Down here in Dallas, about 26. So when Goldman builds a $500 million campus here for 5,000 people, that's not generosity, guys. It's math, plain and simple. So that means we're gonna start to see an influx of new money, old money, and just more people moving into the suburbs. And Goldman's not alone in this, not at all, guys. They're just the one who's got caught naming it publicly. I mean, like I said, JP Morgan already has more employees in Texas than they do in New York. Wells Fargo, Citibank, they have the same type of pattern going on. It's different internal names, different press releases, but the same underlying decision being made in boardrooms across Wall Street because they're sending everybody down to Y'all Street. Look, none of these banks are calling a press conference to announce things like this, guys. You gotta be on the ground floor, and that's what me and my team are. And this is why people come to my channel, guys, because I've got the context, the inside info, and the network that brings you the information that you can't get from any of these other realtor YouTube channels that you've been watching. Shame on you. Shame. But look, if you're working in finance in New York City right now, there's a real chance those exact words, relocate or leave, land on your desk at some point in the next few years. And honestly, a lot of people are choosing to get ahead of that curve rather than wait for it to be made for them. So again, guys, when Ryan Serhant opens 4 offices across Texas in the same window that Wall Street is quietly shipping thousands of jobs down here, that's not 2 unrelated stories, right? That's the same story told from 2 different rooms. When Wall Street and one of the fastest growing brokerages in the entire country make the exact same bet in the exact same year, that's not a coincidence, guys. That's a signal. And it's a signal worth paying attention to, whether you're buying, selling, or sitting on the sidelines waiting for the right time. Like I said, guys, if you need our help, we're here. We've got you covered. Just reach out. Now, look, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend this is all sunshine because you guys know that's not how I do things on this channel. Look, if Wall Street money keeps flowing in here, guys, you should expect some real growing pains to come with it. And I'd rather you hear that from me now than get blindsided by it later, right? Look, traffic on 635 and I-35 is already a beast during peak hours, guys. It's not getting any better anytime soon. Construction is constant. The highways are always under something, and your GPS might reroute you through what feels like a cornfield one week and a brand new Starbucks the next. The property values in the corridors closest to these new job centers, I want you to think about North Dallas, think Plano, think the areas near Goldman Sachs campus site. Those are going to keep climbing in value, and the competition for homes in those specific pockets is going to get tighter and tighter as more of these companies, they finish these build-outs. But look, let's talk about the honest stuff, the stuff people don't put in a relocation brochure, right? Look, the summer here is brutal, guys. June, July, August, like right now, guys, I'm out here and we're talking over 100 degrees on most days, and it doesn't cool off much at night either. Look, Ryan usually has a nice suit on when I see him, but I can tell he was much more intentional about the fabric, and he decided to throw out the collar shirt for a nice breathable tee. Now look, we're not Houston level humid around here, but if you got curly hair, guys, just know it's about to develop a personality of its own. And tornado season, that's real too. It's just not a constant, right? Look, I have people ask me about that all the time, and we don't really see tornadoes like that. Now, we'll get the storm that creates them, but an actual tornado touching down and causing havoc just doesn't happen very often, right? Now, what does happen is you're gonna hear the sirens going on, and that's just a fail-safe as we Texans like to be prepared. Now, if you're coming from a coastal city, there's a genuine cultural shift that catches a lot of people off guard, right? Look, things move a little slower here. Strangers are gonna wave at you for no real reason, and yes, you might get called sir or ma'am at the grocery store more times than you expect to be. Look, I get it. It's charming at first, then it's a little bit confusing, then it just becomes normal. And again, none of this is meant to scare you off, guys. It's meant to prepare you, because the people who actually thrive here are the ones who walk in with both eyes wide open. Expectations align with reality, and not just a highlight reel from a headline that you saw on Instagram. All right, but here's the honest mistake I see relocation buyers make over and over again. And me and Ryan, we talked about this at length. Look, people tend to hear something like this. Goldman's building a campus. More and more people are moving here than ever before, and they want to run down to Dallas and spend all their time looking at houses without actually figuring out whether the area matches how they actually want to live their day-to-day. Guys, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Choosing the right home is only half the battle. Picking the right area for your actual lifestyle, your actual commute, your weekends, that's where most people get this wrong. You have to find the area first before we start house shopping, guys. And then you always want to drive the neighborhood at the time that you'd normally be out and about, not just at 2 in the afternoon when everything looks perfect. That 2 o'clock neighborhood can completely be a different scheme at 6 p.m. on a Friday, right? Once real traffic and real life start to show up. And one more thing worth mentioning, and it's something something most people don't think about until they're already living here. This corporate migration wave isn't a one-time event, not at all, guys. It's ongoing and it's picking up more and more speed. It's not just the finance sector either. Again, big tech, healthcare, and logistic companies, they keep citing the same business-friendly climate, and every time one of them plants a flag here, it pulls jobs, it pulls people, it pulls money behind it, and it also sends more signals for more and more companies to do the same. And that's going to be that pattern behind Plano's transformation, behind what's happening in Frisco right now as well. And it's the exact pattern that Ryan is betting his own business on with the Dallas expansion. And even smaller signals point in the same direction. Things like solar panel installs jumping nearly 40% in a single year around here, which if you buy solar here on new construction homes, I'm going to chastise you the next time I see you. And look, none of these make the headlines the way a Goldman Sachs announcement does, but it's the same underlying story. People and companies are making long-term bets on this specific part of the country. So look, let's bring it all back around, guys, because here's the real takeaway from everything we just walked through. Ryan didn't just move his business into Texas because Dallas is trendy right now. He moved it here because the math backs it up. Look, Ryan, he sees that writing on the wall. New York, it built the last century, but DFW is helping build the next one. Again, look at it like this. No state income tax, a job market that spans more industries than almost anywhere else in the country, real infrastructure investment turning far out suburbs into legitimate livable community. We're talking about Universal Studios and PGA reshaping an entire corridor before it ever gets finished. And now, on top of all of that, literal Wall Street firms relocating their own people here by the thousands, because the cost of doing business in New York has gotten hard for even the biggest banks in the world to justify. Now just let that sink in for a minute, guys. Look, guys, there's a reason Ryan calls me Mr. DFW, and it's not because I gave myself the nickname. Believe me, I wish I could have thought of something cool like that. It's because when his own agents, his own clients, anybody in his orbit has a question about relocating to this market, about the schools, about the commute, about which suburb fits the lifestyle, about the stuff nobody tells you until it's too late, he sends them to me. So if Ryan Serhant trusts us with his network and you're watching this and you're thinking about making the exact move yourself, whether it's for a job with one of these companies or just because you're tired of the weather and the taxes wherever you are right now, we are right here to the rescue, guys. Feel free to reach out. Like I said, all of our contact info is down in the description and then pinned up there to the top of the chat. And look, if you're still in that research phase, trying to figure all this stuff out on your own, we get it, guys. And that's exactly why we created whole playlists that you can binge watch like Netflix. And you can check those out right there.